Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Gracious good morning to you, good people. It's your girl KB. You know what I do, and you know why I do it. It is 3:39 in the a.m. Tuesday, February 24th, and I heard this news blip before I left the house this morning, and it's about uh, someone in Hollywood. You guys know how I feel about Hollywood, but I thought I'd share their story because it's important. It's something that we don't talk about. Uh, we give no conversation to mental health. Now, if COVID didn't teach you anything, it should have taught you about your mental health, the isolation, and the things we did to connect, if you will, during COVID. And, the strain that COVID and the lack of connection and contact put on our mental health should be a topic of conversation for everybody. But the headline is actor Robert Carradine dies at age 71. Now, Robert was in Revenge of the Nerds. He had brothers, David and Keith. Now, Keith was known for the television series Kung Fu. And they're all children of another famous actor, John. Now, the family is known for their mental health struggles. Now, it just mentions that Robert died, but as you read further, Robert died by his own hand. I don't know how David died, but Keith also died in a roundabout way by his own hand. And there's all jokes aside about his own hand. And some of you know what I'm talking about. But the thing that I really want to highlight is mental health. And I want to talk about mental health in the African American community because it's so stigmatized that many of us will go to a therapist maybe one or two times and say, hey, I'm cured, or my therapist told me this, and I take this medication so I don't have to do anything else. Mm-mm. And especially if you have a formal diagnosis, folks. Know what your diagnosis entails. Yeah, I know several people with DSM-5 codes, diagnoses that are pretty much white knuckling it through their day-to-day life. One person, in conversation, I noticed that something wasn't quite right. And they mentioned therapy at one point in time. It's like, oh, really? What's your diagnosis? And they told me some made-up diagnoses. And as time went on, I realized that this person was seriously suffering from NPD, but because the ramifications of having NPD were so strong that they hid behind something that appears to be the default diagnosis for many a folk. and that's bipolar disorder. When people don't understand certain aspects of a diagnosis, that seems to be the default, especially in the African American community. And for me, I see bipolar disorder a lot in my line of work because, people are coming down off drugs, and that's the default diagnosis, as opposed to waiting till, the smoke clears and retesting or reassessing. So now this person's walking around telling everybody they have bipolar disorder when nothing could be further from the truth. And that's why I say know your diagnosis and know what it entails. But getting back to the individual who embraced bipolar disorder, because I said they had NPD, and that's narcissistic personality disorder. And for that, there is no cure. There's DBT, which is a therapy that gives highly structured routines. But because this person wanted to present as well so hard and so much that they didn't adhere to anything, but again, embrace that bipolar disorder diagnosis because to them it sounded better. But your behavior is all over the map. And because it was all over the map, that gave credence to the bipolar disorder. Again, know your diagnoses and all that it entails. There's no shame in needing added support. And knowing that, mental health issues are a result of a lot of factors, and some of which can be attributed to, and some of you guys, I know I can see the hands waving, but you have to acknowledge that the trauma of systemic racism adds a lot of credence to mental health diagnoses. The environmental racism adds a lot to mental health diagnoses. By environmental, I mean the elements that are in certain communities, the food deserts that are created by certain communities are I want to say perpetuated, not created, perpetuated in certain communities. This thing it goes beyond name calling and stigmatizing and bigotry. It goes beyond that. It impacts and permeates every aspect of people of color daily lives. But we want to stay on the hot button topics of the moment instead of looking at the big picture and breaking down this thing so everybody is aware and the community begins to make better choices and makes adjustments in order to effectively heal. And one of the things that seems to fall by the wayside is the education piece. Wake up, speak up, act up, because your life depends on it.